begins on a calm morning at the naval base, the kind of morning where everything feels routine and predictable. Sailors walked across the yard, vehicles moved in and out of the gate, and the guards at the security checkpoint were doing their usual ID scans without any tension. No one expected anything unusual to happen. That's why the sudden arrest of Elena Ward shocked everyone who witnessed it. Elena arrived at the main gate the same way she did every morning. She carried a simple backpack, her uniform was neat, and she had her ID ready. She was quiet, polite, and never caused trouble. Many people didn't even know her name because she kept to herself. She didn't gossip, didn't show off, and never bragged about her work. In fact, most people assumed she was just another low-rank intelligence specialist who spent hours in front of computers. No one imagined she played a much bigger role. As Elena handed her ID to the Marine guard, she noticed something strange. The guard scanned her card twice. Then a second guard came over and whispered something. Elena kept standing still, wondering if it was just a technical problem. But suddenly the guard looked up at her with a tense expression. Not angry, not rude, but almost nervous. "Ma'am, please step aside," he said. Elena obeyed without argument. She learned long ago not to resist security procedures, no matter how uncomfortable they felt. But inside, she felt a wave of confusion. She had done everything right. Her badge was valid. Her clearance was active. There was no reason for this. People walking past slowed down, curious. Some recognized her as the quiet woman from the intelligence building. Others simply stared because anything unusual near a military gate spreads attention fast. Elena tried to stay calm, hoping it would be over soon. Then everything changed. 2 more Marines approached, this time fully alert, hands near their weapons. One of them took out handcuffs. Elena's heart skipped a beat, not from fear, but from shock. This wasn't a normal misunderstanding. Something serious was happening. "Turn around," the Marine ordered. "Put your hands behind your back." For the first time, Elena felt her breath catch. Her instinct was to ask why, but she stopped herself. She knew that, in the military world, questioning an order during a security incident could make things worse. So she slowly turned around, lifted her hands, and let the cold metal close around her wrists. Gasps filled the air around her. A few sailors stopped walking. Someone whispered, "What did she do?" Another said, "She looks too calm. That's weird." But Elena kept her eyes forward. Panic would not help her. Anger would only make things harder. And explanations were impossible, because the work she did was so classified that she couldn't speak about it unless the right person authorized it. As the Marines guided her toward the security building, Elena felt dozens of eyes on her. She walked steadily, refusing to let her fear show. But inside her mind, questions shouted over each other. Had someone misused her login? Had the system flagged her access? Had her project been leaked? Or had someone misunderstood her late-night activity from the previous evening? She remembered the moment clearly. Sitting in a silent room at 0200 hours, reviewing encrypted satellite logs because she had noticed a strange pattern. She wasn't supposed to check them without approval, but waiting for permission could have wasted precious time. Still, she submitted a formal report right after. Nothing about that should have triggered a security response. As she reached the door of the security center, she heard someone murmur behind her, "Espionage." Another person whispered, "Maybe she stole classified files." A guard scolded them for talking, but the rumors had already started. Inside, the Marines placed her in a small holding room. The walls were plain, the lights too bright, and the metal chair felt harder than it should. A camera pointed directly at her. Her wrists were still cuffed. A young officer entered with a tablet in hand. His eyes darted between her and the screen. He seemed uneasy, almost unsure of how to talk to her. "Your clearance is under review," he finally said. "We need to question you." Elena stayed quiet. She knew what he was asking about, but she also knew she was forbidden from giving any details about her work. The project she was part of was so secret that even the people questioning her did not have the clearance to hear her answers. The officer asked why she accessed protected data at 2 a.m. He asked who gave her authorization. He asked why her login appeared in a flagged report. Elena kept her eyes steady and said only one thing each time. I am not authorized to answer that here. Her calmness made the officers even more suspicious. Most people in her situation would beg, cry, or panic. Elena didn't. The silence made the room colder. Outside the holding room, a few guards talked quietly. One of them expressed doubt that she was dangerous. Another insisted that rules required caution. None of them realized that the woman they had just shackled was working on a project so sensitive that even speaking its name in the wrong hall would lead to disciplinary action. As Elena waited, hands cuffed, the base around her buzzed with whispers and confusion. People tried to guess her crime. No one suspected the truth that she wasn't a threat. She was an asset, a vital one the base would soon realize they couldn't function without. And at that very moment, the only man who understood her importance, Admiral Grant, had just been informed that his most valuable analyst had been taken into custody. Everything was about to change. Begins with Elena sitting in the holding room, her hands still cuffed, the metal biting into her skin. The room is cold, quiet, and uncomfortable. The only sound is the humming of the air vent above her. She tries not to think about the humiliation of being arrested in front of everyone. Instead, she focuses on keeping her breathing steady. She knows panic won't help her. She knows that speaking without authorization could make things even worse. After a few minutes, two officers walk in. One is a middle-aged man with tired eyes, the other a younger woman who looks tense, like she's expecting danger. Both of them sit across from Elena. The man begins politely but firmly. We're trying to understand your activity from last night, he says. You accessed encrypted satellite logs at 0200 hours. Why? Elena looks directly at him, calm but serious. I'm not authorized to discuss that here. The younger officer frowns. Ma'am, this is a security investigation. You need to cooperate. But Elena knows the truth. They do not have the clearance to hear her explanation. Giving details now would violate the highest level classification rules. She has seen officers lose their careers for less. So she stays silent, even though it makes her look suspicious. Outside the room, frustration grows. The officers watching through the glass can't understand why she's being so calm, why she isn't defending herself, why she isn't giving excuses. Most people who get arrested at the base either panic or get angry. Elena is doing neither. She's sitting quietly, almost too quietly. They interpret her discipline as secrecy. They interpret her silence as guilt. The older officer tries again. Look, you're not helping yourself. If you explain your actions, we can resolve this quickly. Elena repeats the same line, steady and respectful. I am not authorized to answer these questions without proper clearance. The younger officer's patience snaps. We're asking you for your own good. Why were you in the system at 2 a.m.? Who told you to access those logs? Are you working with someone? Are you covering up unauthorized activity? Elena closes her eyes for a second, gathering her thoughts. She wants to tell them everything, that she was analyzing patterns, that she found something alarming, that she was doing her job to protect the country. She wants to say that she tried to follow protocol, that she reported her findings immediately afterward, that the system must have flagged her access by mistake. But unless Admiral Grant personally clears her to speak, she is tied by rules stronger than handcuffs. The officers misread her silence again. The younger one whispers, "She's hiding something." The older one sighs, "We might have to escalate this." And they leave the room, closing the door behind them. Now Elena is alone again, but her thoughts are racing. She knows exactly how serious last night's discovery was. She knows that foreign communication patterns don't spike for no reason. She knows that every minute she's stuck in this room is a minute the Navy isn't acting on the threat she detected. She tries to stay calm, but deep inside, she's afraid that the delay might allow something dangerous to happen. Meanwhile, outside the holding room, the officers discuss their next steps. One of them is on the phone with their supervisor, reporting Elena's refusal to answer. Another is reviewing her digital activity. They see the timestamp of her login. They see that the file she accessed was heavily encrypted. They see that the system flagged it as unauthorized. They don't see the glitch that happened afterward, the glitch that updated her access level a few minutes too late. To them, it looks like she broke protocol. To them, it looks like she might be a threat. The guards standing nearby talk among themselves. Most of them feel uneasy. Elena didn't look like a spy. She didn't look dangerous. She looked calm, disciplined, focused. One of them even says, if she wanted to hide something, she'd be panicking right now. Not sitting like a statue. But rules are rules. Suspicious activity requires investigation. A new officer enters the room. He's more aggressive than the previous ones. He drops a folder onto the table and looks straight at her. Do you understand how serious this is? Elena nods. Yes, sir. Then answer the questions. I cannot, sir. His frustration grows. Why? Who are you protecting? Who gave you access? Why did you look into restricted logs? Elena remains steady. I can only explain this to Admiral Grant. The officer freezes for a moment. The name hits him like a shockwave. Admiral Alden Grant is not someone regular officers deal with. He is a high-ranking figure known for running highly classified operations. His name tied to someone under arrest is unusual, dangerously unusual. Why him? The officer asks, suddenly unsure. He oversees my project, Elena says carefully. He will understand. The officer steps out of the room immediately. His whole posture has changed. He now understands that something about this case is not normal. He whispers urgently to the others. Words like grant, classified, and restricted assignment begin spreading through the hallway. One guard asks, should we call him? Another says, if she's connected to his program, we should have never touched her. The atmosphere shifts from confidence to anxiety. The officers begin checking her personnel file again, this time looking deeper. They see a line that was easily overlooked before. Assignment, Special Operations Analysis Unit, access level R7. That alone is higher clearance than most officers in the building. Suddenly, no one is sure what to do. The younger officer who questioned her looks shaken now. She whispers, what if we made a mistake? The older officer rubs his forehead. Then we need to fix it fast. Inside the holding room, Elena sits silently, waiting, hoping someone calls the Admiral soon. She knows he will understand. She knows he will get her out. But she also knows that until he arrives, she is trapped. Unable to speak, unable to explain, unable to defend herself. Her only option is patience. And somewhere across the base, Admiral Grant is about to receive a report that will make him stop everything he is doing. Someone has arrested his top analyst. Someone has arrested the one person he calls his secret weapon. And he is not going to stay quiet about it. Takes us back into Elena Ward's life, showing who she really is, far beyond the quiet woman sitting in a cold holding room with handcuffs on her wrists. While the officers outside try to guess what kind of person she might be, spy, traitor, or troublemaker, the truth is something very different. Elena was never any of those things. She was someone who earned every bit of respect she never received. Elena grew up far from military bases, far from intelligence rooms, and far from secrets. She was raised in a small town by her father, a mechanic who worked long hours to support them. Her mother had passed away when Elena was young, so her father did everything he could to raise her right. He taught her to stay calm under pressure, to think before speaking, and to never panic when things got hard. These lessons became the backbone of her personality. Elena wasn't like other kids. While others loved noise and crowds, she liked quiet places. She loved puzzles, patterns, and solving difficult problems. Numbers made sense to her in a way people didn't. She could see connections in data that others missed. Teachers noticed it. She could look at a list of numbers or a complicated pattern and find the hidden message without being taught how. Her father didn't fully understand her talent, but he supported her. He often said, "Your mind is your superpower. Use it wisely." Elena never forgot those words. Life wasn't easy, though. Money was always tight. Her father sometimes skipped meals so she could eat. Elena saw everything, even when he tried to hide it. When she turned 18, she made a decision. She joined the Navy. She didn't join to escape. She joined to lift the weight off her father's shoulders. The Navy promised education, stability, and a chance to use her intellect in a way she never could in her small hometown. Training wasn't easy for her either. She wasn't the strongest or fastest, but she was determined. When others complained, she focused. When others struggled with instructions, she memorized every detail. Her calm personality sometimes made her seem distant, but she wasn't unfriendly. She just felt more comfortable observing quietly. Her life changed completely the day one of her instructors noticed her solving a complex encryption test in half the expected time. He sent her name to a specialized intelligence program. A month later, she was quietly transferred to a restricted unit. There were no big ceremonies, no applause, no explanations, just a signature on a form and a direct escort to a new building where access required multiple badges and silence was the first rule. In that building, she met analysts who had worked for decades on high-level codes. Many were shocked by how naturally she understood patterns in foreign communication networks. They tested her with encrypted messages, satellite signals, radar logs, and even outdated systems. She solved them all. Her skills were rare. Some in the unit even called her the pattern whisperer, though she hated nicknames. She wasn't interested in fame. She simply wanted to do her job well. This is where Admiral Grant first learned her name. Unlike others, he didn't care about her age, her rank, or her quiet personality. He cared about results. In his world, results mattered more than loud voices or shiny medals. Elena delivered results that saved lives. One night, months before her arrest, Elena noticed something odd in a set of encrypted maritime signals. It looked like random noise at first, but she sensed a rhythm behind it. She followed the pattern for hours, matching it against archived data. What she found helped prevent a hostile submarine from slipping close to a U.S. destroyer. Her discovery allowed the Navy to reposition the ship in time. The official report credited Special Analysis Unit personnel. Her name was not included. It didn't matter to her. She didn't do it for recognition. But Admiral Grant remembered. He called her into his office weeks later. She expected a lecture or correction. Instead, he looked at her across his desk and said, "You have a talent that can't be taught. Use it wisely." Those were almost the same words her father used to say. That moment formed a quiet respect between them. He didn't treat her like a junior sailor. He treated her like a mind the Navy could not afford to lose. He made sure she had access to the information she needed, even if few others understood why. Still, most people on the base never truly noticed her. She walked through the halls like a shadow, calm, quiet, forgettable to anyone who didn't know her work. But the people who knew her in the analysis unit respected her deeply. She didn't talk much, but when she did, people listened. And now, sitting in the holding room, her wrists aching from the cuffs, none of those people knew she had been arrested. No one in the analysis unit was aware she had gone missing. They were busy working. They were busy trusting that Elena was somewhere behind her computer screens, doing what she always did, finding patterns that kept the Navy safe. Only Admiral Grant would understand the moment he heard what happened. Only he knew how important she truly was. And only he knew that Elena Ward was not just another intelligence specialist. She was the quiet mind that protected them all without ever asking for recognition. And right now, that quiet mind was trapped in a room, unable to speak, unable to defend herself, treated like a criminal while the officers questioning her had no idea they had touched someone far more important than they realized. Everything she had done, every long night, every solved pattern, every quiet sacrifice, was unknown to those who had shackled her. But they were about to find out. Goes back to the night before Elena's arrest, the night everything started to go wrong. While the base slept and most lights were off, Elena was still at her desk in the intelligence building. The room was quiet except for the soft humming of computers and the faint clicking of her keyboard. It wasn't unusual for her to stay late. When she saw something suspicious, she didn't wait until morning. That was the rule she lived by. Earlier that evening, she was scanning through regular communication logs, checking for anything unusual. Most days, these logs were boring, Small signals from ships, radar updates, or ordinary satellite transmissions. But on this night, something caught her attention. It wasn't big or loud. It wasn't obvious. It was a tiny, almost invisible spike in frequency. A strange signal bouncing off the Pacific waters. First, it looked like random noise. But Elena's mind didn't see noise. She saw rhythm. She saw a pattern hiding behind the numbers, like a message written in invisible ink. She zoomed in, analyzed it, and ran it through software. The software flagged it as unrecognized. That only made her more curious. Instead of closing her laptop and walking away, she leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. Something about the signal felt intentional. She started comparing it to old records, files from past years, encrypted messages from foreign submarines, and patterns only her unit had the clearance to study. She searched for a match. Then she found one. A similar signal had been recorded once, years ago, before a stealth submarine tried to slip close to U.S. waters. The Navy caught it just in time back then. Elena remembered the old report clearly, because she had studied it during training. The pattern wasn't perfect, but it was close enough to grab her full attention. Elena felt her heartbeat quicken. She knew what this meant. A foreign submarine might be preparing to move silently into restricted territory again. She didn't know how close it was or what its plan was, but she knew the pattern wasn't random. Someone was signaling beneath the ocean, and Elena was possibly the first person to notice. She checked the time, 1:32 a.m. Most officers were asleep. Her supervisor was off base. Her team had gone home hours ago. She had two options: wait for morning or follow protocol for emergency analysis. Protocol 1. She requested temporary access to encrypted satellite logs. Data so sensitive that only special analysts like her had permission to request it, and only with a very good reason. She typed in her justification carefully, explaining that she needed to cross-check the strange signal. Her request was approved automatically by the system. That alone told her that her clearance level was still high enough. She dove into the logs, comparing the signal with ocean movements, intercepted communication bursts, and older encrypted entries. The more she studied it, the more certain she became. A submarine was preparing to make a silent approach, and whatever its mission was, it wouldn't be friendly. She worked for hours, completely focused. She didn't even notice how tired she was. She only cared about the pattern in front of her. At exactly 2 a.m., she created an emergency report. It described her findings, her concerns, and her recommendation for immediate monitoring. She sent it through the secure channel meant only for high-priority situations. After sending the report, she expected her system to log everything properly. But technology is never perfect. A glitch occurred, just a tiny but disastrous one. Her access to the logs had updated late. To the system, it looked like she entered the data illegally before the update went through. It flagged her login as a possible breach. Normally, these errors are fixed by morning. But that night, the base's automated system forwarded the alert to the security office. The message said, "Unauthorized access to encrypted satellite logs by Spec. Elena Ward." Elena didn't know any of this. She simply closed her files, cleaned her desk, and walked home feeling uneasy about the submarine she believed was moving in the dark water. She barely slept that night. She kept thinking about the strange signal, replaying the numbers in her mind, trying to see if she had missed something. Meanwhile, at the security office, officers received the system alert. They didn't know about the glitch. They didn't know Elena's emergency report was legitimate. They saw only a red flag with her name on it. By the time morning came, the order had already been sent. Stop her at the gate, question her, restrict her movement until the matter was investigated. So when Elena approached the base the next morning, unaware of the trouble building behind her, the guards were already prepared. They didn't know who she really was or what she had discovered. They only followed what the system told them. She accessed sensitive data without authorization. And because the system also noted a potential intelligence breach, protocol required them to detain her immediately. When they handcuffed her, everyone watching thought she must have done something terrible. But they didn't know her story. They didn't know she had spent the night trying to protect them. They didn't know she had stayed awake to stop a threat none of them could even see. While they suspected her of wrongdoing, she had been trying to keep them safe. As she sat in the holding room hours later, she thought about the pattern again, worrying that no one was checking the signal now. Every minute mattered. Every second could change something out at sea. She felt helpless, trapped, unable to warn anyone. And as frustration built around her arrest, Admiral Grant finally received a notification about the unauthorized access. One glance at the name was enough. Elena Ward wasn't the one breaking protocol. She was the one following it. She had been trying to stop something dangerous. And Admiral Grant was already heading toward the detention area, ready to undo the mistake the entire base had made. Begins with a kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, it feels heavy. After everything that happened earlier, the base was still awake, but the atmosphere had changed. People walked slower, talked softer, and seemed to think twice before judging someone. It was the kind of shift that happens when one moment teaches everyone a lesson without anyone shouting a single word. She walked away from the parade grounds, trying to calm her heartbeat. Even though she had handled everything with strength, inside she was tired. Not the kind of tired you fix with sleep, the deep kind that builds after years of being misunderstood, underestimated, and laughed at for things people never tried to understand. But even in her tiredness, something warm lived inside her. The commander's salute wasn't just respect. It was a reminder that her struggles hadn't been invisible. Someone had finally seen her for who she truly was. That feeling gave her energy again, a spark of confidence she desperately needed. As she headed toward the training hall, she heard footsteps behind her. She didn't turn, not until she heard a voice. Quiet, careful, unlike before. It was the same SEAL who had earlier mocked her rank. He stopped a few feet away, like he wasn't sure if he should come closer. For a moment he didn't speak, and she didn't help him. She waited. If he wanted to say something, he needed to find the words himself. Finally, he said, "I didn't know." She raised an eyebrow. "Didn't know what?" "That you're who you are. That the commander." He stopped, searching for words. "I shouldn't have joked about your rank." She didn't respond right away. She could have snapped at him, could have thrown back every rude word he had said earlier. But she didn't. Instead, she looked at him with a calm expression, one he wasn't expecting. "You didn't have to know," she said softly. "Respect shouldn't depend on someone's rank." That sentence hit him harder than the commander's salute had hit the crowd. His throat tightened. He nodded slowly, almost in shame. "You're right," he admitted. "No excuses." For the first time since morning, she saw something human in him. Not arrogance, not ego, but honesty. People make mistakes. What matters is whether they learn from them. He stepped back. "If you ever need anything at all, I'm here." She gave a small nod. Not forgiveness, not friendship, just acknowledgement. And sometimes that's enough. He walked away, leaving her alone again. But the moment softened something inside her. She had spent so long being mocked, doubted, and misjudged that hearing a genuine apology felt strange, almost unfamiliar. But it was real. When she entered the training hall, she found a few officers staring at her. Not in a rude way, more like they were trying to figure her out. Word had already spread. News travels fast in a place where everyone watches everyone. A young female cadet approached her hesitantly. She looked nervous, but hopeful. "Ma'am, is it true?" she asked. "What part?" "That the commander saluted you first?" She gave a small smile. "Yes, it's true." The cadet's eyes widened with admiration. "I wish I could be strong like you." That sentence stopped her. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. She had always pushed herself because she had to, because nobody believed she could be anything other than average. She had never thought of herself as someone others looked up to. "You will be," she said gently. "Strength starts when you stop trying to impress others and start believing in your own worth." The cadet nodded slowly, absorbing every word like it was something precious. Soon, more cadets gathered around. Some asked questions, some simply listened. They wanted to understand her. Not her rank, not her salute, but her journey. And she realized something beautiful. People weren't inspired because the commander respected her. They were inspired because she respected herself first. Late in the evening, she stepped outside again. The sky was turning orange and purple, the kind of sunset that makes everything feel softer. She sat on a bench quietly, for the first time allowing herself to breathe deeply. She remembered the struggles, the laughter behind her back, the insults disguised as jokes. She remembered all the days she had to prove she was enough. And now, for once, she didn't feel like fighting. She felt like she had finally arrived where she was meant to be. As the wind brushed her face, she whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning," and it truly was. The moment the commander saluted her, everything changed. Not just for her, but for everyone who saw it. Respect wasn't a gift anymore. It was something earned, recognized, and acknowledged. Part 5 ends with her standing up again, ready to continue her journey. Not because she had something to prove now, but because she had already proven it. And the entire base would never forget. Begins the next morning, when the sun rose gently over the base. The whole place looked calmer, almost peaceful. But inside, she knew something had changed forever. Yesterday had been loud, full of shocks, whispers, surprises, and unexpected respect. Today felt different. Today felt like the world was watching her silently. She woke up early, earlier than usual, because her mind didn't let her rest completely. She kept thinking about the commander's salute, the SEAL's apology, and the cadet's hopeful eyes. These moments kept replaying like small scenes in her head. She wasn't used to being noticed. She wasn't used to people admiring her. For years, she had moved quietly, doing her work, staying strong and hiding her pain. But now all eyes were slowly turning toward her. When she arrived at the cafeteria for breakfast, she noticed something strange. Yesterday, people laughed behind her back. Today, they moved aside and made space for her. Some nodded respectfully, some straightened their posture, and some just stared with curiosity. She walked quietly to her table and sat down. A few seconds later, a young soldier approached her with a tray in his hands. He seemed nervous. "Ma'am, can I sit here?" She looked at him, surprised. Nobody usually asked to sit with her. Most people avoided her or judged her from far away. "Sure," she said softly. He sat down, still a little uncomfortable. He played with his spoon before finally speaking. "I was there yesterday," he said. "I saw everything. It was inspiring." She didn't reply, so he continued. "People like us, we get laughed at too. For small things. For not being strong enough or fast enough or loud enough. But when I saw you standing there, not scared, not angry, just strong, I felt like maybe I could be strong too." His honesty touched her heart more than he realized. She didn't see herself as someone who inspired others. She just did what she had to do. But now, she was beginning to understand that her actions had meaning, not just for her, but for others who were struggling quietly. "Strength isn't about shouting," she said gently. "It's about standing." The soldier looked up at her with respect she wasn't used to receiving. After breakfast, she walked outside where training was about to start. Today's session was tougher: running, lifting, drills, and obstacle courses. As always, she was ready. She never backed away from hard work. But something different happened. People who usually ignored her started working beside her. The same SEAL who mocked her the day before kept his distance. But he watched her carefully, almost protectively. When she climbed ropes, soldiers cheered softly. When she ran laps, nobody tried to block her or outdo her. They simply respected her pace. For the first time, she felt like part of a team. Midway through training, the commander arrived unexpectedly. Everyone froze for a second, standing taller, adjusting their uniforms. The commander wasn't the kind of person who visited training areas without a reason. He looked around, then his eyes found her. She felt her heart thump once, slow and heavy. "Walk with me," the commander said. Everyone stared as she stepped out of the line and followed him. They walked side by side across the field until they reached a quiet corner where no one could hear them. "You handled yesterday with dignity," he said, And people noticed. She remained silent. She didn't know what to say. The commander continued, "I've watched you for months. You don't boast. You don't complain. You do your work better than most, and you carry your struggles alone. That's rare." She looked down for a moment. Hearing someone acknowledge her struggle felt strange. She had never expected appreciation, not from someone so high in rank. "Sir," she said softly, "I didn't do anything special." The commander shook his head. "You did. You didn't break even when others pushed you. You stayed steady. That is the mark of someone strong, not because of rank, but because of character." Those words warmed her heart more than she expected. Then the commander added something she wasn't prepared for. "There's a leadership program opening soon. I want you to apply." Her breath caught. "Me? Yes, you. You're ready for more responsibility. You can guide others by example." She didn't respond immediately. She needed a moment. All her life, she had been proving herself silently. And now someone was finally recognizing her ability. Not out of pity, not out of pressure, but because she earned it. "I'll think about it," she said honestly. "That's all I ask," the commander replied. When training ended later that day, people approached her again. Some with questions, some with simple smiles. A soft sense of pride settled inside her. Not arrogance, not ego, but a quiet realization that she had finally become someone others believed in. In the evening, she sat outside near the small garden behind the dorms. The wind was cool, and the sky slowly turned golden. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to feel hopeful. She thought about the path ahead, the leadership program, the respect she had earned, the people she had unknowingly inspired. Everything felt new yet right. She whispered to herself, "Maybe this is my place after all." Part 6 ends with her standing up, a gentle smile forming on her face, ready for whatever came next. Not because the world finally noticed her, but because she finally noticed her own strength. Begins on a day that felt different from all the others. The sky was cloudy, the air was heavy, and there was a strange tension on the base. Even the footsteps of soldiers sounded sharper on the ground, as if everyone knew something important was about to happen. She felt it too, like a quiet pressure in her chest. After yesterday's talk with the commander, she had spent most of the night thinking. His words kept repeating in her mind. "Leadership program, you're ready, you inspire others." It was hard to believe. She had never dreamed of being in a position like that. She was used to being invisible, but now the world around her was slowly changing. When she stepped into the hallway that morning, a few soldiers greeted her with small smiles. Felt unreal. She wasn't used to attention. She wasn't used to kindness. And she wasn't sure how to respond, but she tried her best to smile back. But as she reached the training yard, she noticed something off. A group of officers and higher-ranking soldiers stood in the center of the field. They looked serious, almost concerned. The commander was there too, his expression firm but calm. Everyone formed a circle around them. Then she learned the reason for the tension. A message had arrived, an urgent one. A dangerous situation had developed offshore. A team needed to be assembled immediately, and the commander had to choose who would go. Not everyone was prepared. Not everyone was stable under pressure. This mission required someone who could stay calm in chaos, think quickly, and act with precision. And unexpectedly, the commander's eyes turned to her. "We need her," he said. The crowd murmured in shock. The same people who once doubted her now stared at her like she had suddenly turned into someone powerful. One officer stepped forward. "Sir, are you sure?" "She's still. She's the one I trust for this," the commander interrupted firmly. "And I want her on the team." She felt her heartbeat speed up. She had never been chosen for something so serious. She looked around and saw mixed reactions. Some supportive, some confused, some doubtful. The SEAL who once mocked her folded his arms, staring at her curiously, as if trying to understand why she kept surprising him. The commander stepped close to her. "You don't have to be afraid. I've seen you. You're steady when others panic." His quiet confidence in her felt like a hand lifting her from the ground. She nodded slowly. "I'll do it," she said. Training for the mission began immediately. The team gathered inside a briefing room filled with giant screens, maps, and plans. It felt intimidating at first. Everyone there had more experience, more medals, longer service. She felt like the most ordinary person in the room. But when the briefing officer explained the situation, something inside her clicked. She focused deeply, studying every detail, memorizing every path, every risk. She didn't speak much, but when an officer asked for suggestions, she calmly offered one. The room went quiet. Her idea wasn't just good, it was smart, sharp, and practical. The officers exchanged surprised looks. The commander smiled slightly, as if he had been expecting that moment. Over the next hours, the team ran simulations. They practiced communication methods, evacuation routes, and tactical steps. She surprised them again. She worked with steady determination, not trying to impress, but simply doing her best. She didn't panic even when the simulations became intense. Her movements stayed smooth, her decisions clear. One soldier whispered to another, "She's different. She's not like the others." Another responded, "No wonder the Admiral. No wonder they call her the secret weapon." Those words hit her in a strange way. She had never seen herself as a secret weapon. She had seen herself as someone surviving quietly, trying to stay strong. But maybe strength had always been inside her. Maybe she just never realized it. By afternoon, the team had one final test, a timed rescue drill. Everyone doubted she could handle it. But when the sirens sounded and the team rushed into action, she moved like something awakened inside her. She crawled, climbed, carried, and led. She didn't hesitate. She didn't freeze. At one point, when two soldiers got stuck in a narrow passage, she found a way around the obstacle before anyone else even understood what went wrong. When the drill ended, everyone waited silently for the results. The officer in charge looked down at his tablet, then looked up slowly, his eyebrows raised. "This is the fastest completion time we've ever had," he said. And she led most of it. The team stared at her with newfound respect. Even the SEAL who mocked her stepped forward. His expression softened in a way she had never seen before. "You're good," he admitted quietly. "Really good." She didn't brag or smile proudly. She just said, "We all work together." As the day ended, the commander called her aside once again. "You proved yourself today," he said. "Not just to me, but to everyone." She felt something warm bloom in her chest. For the first time, she saw herself the way others were beginning to see her. Not as someone weak or overlooked, but as someone capable. Someone strong. The commander added gently, "Tomorrow, the Admiral will arrive." Her breath caught. "The Admiral?" she repeated. "Yes," he said. "He wants to meet you." A mix of fear and excitement rushed through her. She didn't know what the Admiral wanted, but she knew one thing. Whatever came next, she wasn't the same person she once was. She walked away quietly, the wind brushing past her, the sky now glowing orange. Inside her, a new fire had started burning. Not loud, not wild, but steady and powerful. Part 7 ends with her standing at the edge of the field, looking toward the horizon, ready for the moment that would change everything. Begins early in the morning, before the sun had even fully risen. The entire base felt different. Normally, mornings were noisy. Boots hitting the ground, voices shouting, drills starting. But today, everything felt controlled, organized, and quietly intense. Soldiers were standing straighter than usual. Officers were checking things twice. There was a sense of importance in the air, because today the Admiral was coming. She stood near the training yard, her hands slightly cold even though the weather wasn't. She had faced difficult tasks before, but this felt different. Facing danger was one kind of fear. Facing attention was another. She had never liked being the center of anything. But now she had no choice. Her actions over the past days had brought her into a place she never expected to stand. When she saw the convoy of vehicles entering through the main gate, her breath slowed. The entire base stood at attention. Even the wind seemed quieter. The vehicles stopped near the command office, and the Admiral stepped out, Tall, calm, powerful, with eyes that saw everything. He didn't smile, but he didn't look harsh either. He looked like someone who carried the weight of 1,000 decisions and still stood strong. The commander approached him, saluted, and they exchanged a few quiet words. After a moment, the Admiral nodded and turned his eyes toward her. For a second, she felt frozen. Not scared, just overwhelmed by the fact that a man of such high rank was here for her. "Bring her," the Admiral said. The commander gestured for her to follow. Her legs felt heavy, but she took steady steps. When she finally stood in front of the Admiral, she saluted with all the respect she had. The Admiral looked at her for a long moment before speaking. "I've heard a lot about you," he said, "but I prefer to see things for myself." She didn't know how to respond, so she simply nodded. They walked together through the training yard. Soldiers watched from a distance, whispering, waiting for something to happen. The Admiral began asking her questions. Not easy ones, but ones that required thought, clarity, and confidence. What do you do when your team falls apart? How do you stay calm when others panic? What matters more, strength or judgment? She answered each question with honesty. She didn't try to sound perfect. She didn't try to impress him. She simply spoke from her experience, her struggles, her learning, her quiet resilience. Once, she paused and said softly, "I'm not special, sir. I just don't give up." The Admiral's expression changed slightly. Not quite a smile, but something close. A small sign that her words mattered. After the questions, he asked for a live demonstration. He wanted to see her in action. The commander arranged the drill immediately. It was tougher than anything she had done before. Complex, timed, fast-paced, with many steps. The entire base gathered around to watch. The air was filled with tension. She took a deep breath. When the whistle blew, she moved. Her instincts took over. She climbed walls, crossed barriers, crawled under low wires, carried equipment, coordinated signals, and rescued the dummy soldiers with precision. Sweat ran down her face, her muscles burned, but she didn't stop. Not for a second. She didn't rush in panic. She moved with calm strength. Halfway through the drill, a difficult obstacle appeared. One that required quick thinking. The team hesitated for just a moment. She stepped forward, gave clear instructions, and created a new plan that helped everyone move forward safely. The Admiral watched closely, his arms crossed, his eyes sharp. When the final whistle blew, she fell to one knee for a second. Not in weakness, but to catch her breath. Her teammates stood around her, breathing hard too, but smiling proudly. The officer in charge announced the result. Successful. Very successful. The crowd murmured. Some even clapped softly. The Admiral walked toward her, and everyone went silent. She stood up straight as he approached. "You're better than I expected," he said. She didn't know whether to smile or stay serious, so she simply nodded respectfully. Then he said the words that shocked everyone around them. "Commander, remove the restraints." People blinked, confused. She wasn't wearing shackles now, but they all knew what he meant. The restraints of doubt. The restraints of low rank. The restraints of being overlooked. The Admiral continued, "Let her go. Promote her. She's not just a soldier. She's the secret weapon." The words hit her like a strong, warm wave. She didn't feel like crying, but her heart felt full. Heavy with relief. Bright with pride. The soldiers around her straightened their backs. Some smiled. Some whispered in awe. Even the SEAL who once mocked her looked impressed, maybe even grateful. The commander stepped forward, placing a new insignia in her hand. "You earned this," he said. In that moment, she realized something important. Her journey wasn't about being noticed. It wasn't about proving something to the world. It was about proving something to herself. Later that evening, she stood alone near the quiet garden behind the dorms. The sky was a deep blue, stars slowly appearing. She held the new insignia in her hand. Felt heavy, but in a good way. She thought about every moment. Every insult. Every doubt. Every time she stood alone. All of it had led her here. For the first time in her life, she felt not just strong, but seen. And she whispered softly to herself, I finally know who I am. Part 8 ends with her standing tall under the night sky, knowing her journey had only just begun. But now she walked forward with pride, purpose, and a strength no one could ever take away from her.